Deontay Wilder is the most overrated fighter in boxing. That is according to Eddie Hearn. Welcome back to Pro Boxing Fans. Now, today's video we're going to talk about Deontay Wilder, the hardest hitting heavyweight of his generation by a mile and arguably of all time. I mean, it's hard to back against that notion. 42 wins of his 43 victories by knockout, 2 defeats in his career, of course, to Tyson Fury. And whatever happens, even though he's 37 years old, that power, they always say, the power never leaves you. It's the last thing to go, and that makes him as dangerous as anyone. We saw that in October when he wiped out Robert Helenius in one round. People thought, well, maybe he's been off almost a year after that crushing defeat to Fury in the third fight where he was knocked out cold. But he came back against Helenius and knocked him out. And it wasn't even like, if you guys remember the knockout, he was kind of leaning back. And it's almost like he didn't even put full force into the right hand and iced Helenius completely. Before the devastating power he's got, he's always had critics over his boxing ability. He's always kind of relied on that right hand at times to get him out of trouble. If you think about the Luis Ortiz fights, and this is where we're going to come on to Eddie Hearn's comments in a moment, but against Luis Ortiz, especially in that rematch, he didn't really win a round until he knocked him out in the 7th. The 3 fights with Tyson Fury, the first fight, a controversial draw. I mean, Fury won the fight, let's be honest here. But the right hand of Wilder almost got him out of trouble in the final round when he knocked Fury down and somehow he got back up. But he was exposed in the second fight, comfortably beaten. And in the third fight, we did see a bit better boxing, I felt. Maybe that's the impact of Malik Scott, the trainer, but he was targeting Fury's body and then he kind of reverted back to type and was quite reliant on his power. Now, Eddie Hearn, who's currently negotiating a fight between Wilder and Anthony Joshua for December in Saudi Arabia, was asked on the DAZN boxing show who he believed is the most overrated fighter in boxing. And he went for Deontay Wilder, and this is what he had to say and why he thinks that.
Overrated fighter? Deontay Wilder.
You think so? Why would you say that? I mean...
No, the reason I say that is because I think Deontay Wilder is a dangerous knockout artist.
Yeah, so right? How is he overrated?
Because Luis Ortiz absolutely schooled him and stood him on his head. He knocked him out.
And got knocked out.
Yeah, like, he was 8-0 down in rounds, right? His only victory of note in his entire career is Luis Ortiz.
So that was Eddie Hearn explaining why he feels that Deontay Wilder is the most overrated fighter. What do you guys think? I mean, a record that he has of 42 wins by knockout, and with the only blemishes on his record to one fighter in Tyson Fury, who is considered the best of his era, it seems a little harsh to say that. I mean, in terms of the boxing ability, which I think Eddie's referring to, as I mentioned, Wilder hasn't always shown the best of his ability, but I think that you can't really judge him until it's all said and done. If he fights Anthony Joshua, knocks him out. If he fights Alexander Usyk, wins by knockout. If he fights Andy Ruiz, I still don't think Wilder's fought absolutely everyone, where we can completely criticise saying, well, he hasn't fought this guy, he hasn't fought that guy. He's still got, I believe he once said he'll fight till he's 40. So he's still, on that basis, got 3 more years. We're waiting to see whether he faces Andy Ruiz before a Joshua fight. Obviously, Joshua is set to fight Dillian Whyte August 12th at the O2. That's close to completion. It might even be announced by the time this video's gone up. But Wilder has been going back and forth in the media with, mainly he's been talking about why this Andy Ruiz fight is looking hard to make, I believe because of the purse split. But yeah, I don't agree necessarily that he is an overrated fighter. I feel that he'll still go down when it's all said and done as one of the great heavyweights. I mean, he's defended his WBC title, was it 10 times? Okay, you can question some of the opposition, but he can only fight who was out there at the time. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with Eddie? Is he the most overrated fighter in boxing? Is there someone else that comes to mind immediately? Let us know in the comments. Just before we go, just touching on the weekend, I was at the Savannah Marshall Franchon Cruz DAZN fight in Manchester. Check out the content from that, because we got some good post-fight content. Great win for Savannah Marshall, undisputed champion. Franchon Cruz DAZN can certainly hold her head up high. She was telling me afterwards about dedicating the fight to her late mum. Her dad beat cancer the day before the fight. So she is an incredible story, and I'm sure she'll be back. Be interesting to see what Savannah does next. I believe she's got a mandatory against Shadisha Green, who is promoted by Jake Paul. It wasn't really mentioned in the aftermath. The chat was more about a rematch with Claressa Shields, who obviously came into the press conference and made it clear that the rematch has to be in the US. So we'll see what happens there. And also, Dalton Smith, a brilliant knockout win over Sam Maxwell. If you haven't seen that, watch that back, because that was a brutal knockout, and probably a knockout that Dalton Smith needed. There's been a lot of hype around him, and he's obviously very highly rated, but that is the type of performance to make a statement in, and that's what he did. So we'll see where he goes. He's obviously won the British title outright and the Commonwealth, so I'm sure he'll be looking to move on to sort of the European level. I think he got quite a bad cut though, so I don't know if that's going to keep him out for a bit, but yeah, be interesting to see what he does next. So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.